Well, with that, I will call to order this work session of the Weston City Council. It's Monday, April 7th, 2025. Nice to be back in the council chamber after a little break through the last couple weeks of March. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The first item of business is to approve the agenda. I have one small change of ordering.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the agenda for the April 7th City Council work session with a change from moving our county transportation Stafford update to after public comment.
Is there a second? Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda, moving the county transportation Stafford update up to after public comment. So that'll be fourth on the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, go ahead and call the roll.
Councillor Bonington,
Yes.
Councillor Bright,
Yes.
Council President Baumgartner,
Yes.
Councillor Groner,
Yes.
Mayor Bielostowski.
Yes, thank you very much. So the motion passes, agenda is approved, and that will take us to public comments. Do we have any today?
There are none.
Okay, no public comments. So with that, we'll quickly move right into the business of the day. We have first the County Transportation Stafford Road update, and we'll welcome up Eric Leas, our city engineer. John, do you have any opening remarks?
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome back to the council chambers. We are happy to be here, and we welcome our guests. Eric will do the intro, but as we wrote in the staff report, the purpose of this is a briefing on this project, to have the opportunity for council to talk to the project managers here or the project team. So Eric, if you want to do a more detailed intro, that'd be awesome.
Sure. Mayor, city councilors, thanks for having us today. Some of you may recall, we were here back in October of, I had to go back and look, but it's been October of 2023 that the county team came and gave an update on this project. Since then, they're making some movement and a little bit farther along in the process. So here today to give a quick update on the project and answer any questions. So from the county, we have project manager Jonathan Hangartner, and then traffic manager Joe Merrick. And I understand, Joe, through LinkedIn, that after 34 years with the county, you've announced your retirement. So congratulations on that. And I wanted to give you a shout out, and I appreciate at least my years here working with you. So congrats on that. And with that, we'll turn it over. I guess let you, I think you got to point it that way.
I get it.
Good afternoon, members of the council and mayor. Thank you for having us this afternoon. As Eric mentioned, we're here to give you a quick update on the Stafford Road Improvements Project. And as Eric mentioned, we were here a couple Octobers ago to give you kind of a overview of the project, the improvements we're going to be making. And at that time, we were looking to start construction in 2024. However, we've been delayed about a year. So we are about to move into the road improvement construction portion. And we're proposing a series of road closures along Stafford Road. So we wanted to discuss potential traffic impacts and the proposed detour routes and things of that nature. So with that, I wanted to introduce the project location. If you're not familiar with it, we'll be making improvements along Stafford Road, north of 205. And the limits are north of the Tualatin River Bridge to just south of the Rosemont Road roundabout. And our improvements are focused at the Childs Road intersection and at the Johnson Road intersection, where we'll be making significant intersection improvements, and then also adding bike lanes along that whole length of Stafford Road. There we go. So briefly going over some of the project components. You can see here, we'll be adding a roundabout at the Childs Road intersection. So here's a nice graph of what that could look like. That's what we're anticipating there at the Childs Road intersection. In addition to the roundabout at Childs Road, we'll also be making natural habitat improvements. We'll be replacing the Pecan Creek culvert for fish passage. And at the Johnson Road intersection, we'll be realigning it to eliminate intersection skew and improve intersection sight distance. And then, as I mentioned, we'll be adding bike lanes along Stafford Road to provide connectivity of bike facilities. Going over kind of the project timeline, as I mentioned, this project's been going on for a few years now. So we've wrapped up design and we bid this project for construction over the winter. Got some really good bids, and we just finished contracting with West Tech Construction. So West Tech Construction will be providing a detailed construction schedule here in the next couple weeks, working on them with that. And then, as you might have noticed, there is some utility relocations going on along Stafford Road. That's going on under flagging. There's some daytime activities, and then there's also another crew working nights. That's actually a high-pressured gas relocation that Northwest Natural is doing. And those relocations will continue through the month of April. Then here in the next coming weeks, we expect to begin our first season of road improvement construction. And that could begin as soon as the end of April or the 1st of May. Still working to finalize that. The first season of construction will extend through this fall, and then we'll enter what we're calling a winter shutdown period, where there will be less road work going on, but there will be a significant amount of utility relocations. And that we're expecting to be done under flagging rather than through road closures. Then picking up next spring, we'll start the road work again in earnest, and that will go until winter of 2026. And we expect substantial completion by the winter of 2026. And any remaining work after that time will be done under flagging as opposed to road closures. So some of this utility relocation work we're doing under flagging, but the bulk of construction season 1 and construction season 2, we are proposing full road closures along the project. And we'll get into more of the detail of that. So here's a map that shows kind of a proposed detouring and staging plan. Again, this is subject to change because the contractor is allowed to propose an alternative to this. But right now, we're proposing 5 stages of construction, and the colors of the hatching correspond to the stage of closures. So for example, stage 1 would be the first closure, and that would be kind of the southern limits of the project. So we would close Stafford Road and Johnson Road between Petula Way and Johnson. Then stage 2, we would open the stage 1 to traffic. So Johnson would be opened again, but then we would be closing Stafford Road from Johnson to Rosemont Road and also closing Childs Road. Then stage 3 would be the winter shutdown. Stafford Road and Johnson Road would be open to traffic, but we would keep the Childs Road approach closed. And then
Oh, maybe you could just mute your mic. That might be causing that.
Sorry about that.
There we go.
oh, thank you.
No, probably just signed it. He's watching online as well to see the
Gotcha.
slides better.
Yeah,
Go
so stages 4 and 5 would be second season, which would be 2026, and we would kind of mirror the closures we did in the first season, but in reverse order. So again, these are subject to change, but our goal is to have the least impact to the traveling public and also construct the project in a safe way and as quickly as we can. And so utilizing road closures is the best way we know how. The main reason there's a couple reasons why we think road closures are appropriate. One of those being just the amount of work that has to be done. There's tens of thousands of cubic yards of excavation of earthwork. So that's one reason. And then there's a lot of work at Childs Road with regrading, a culvert, things of that nature. And then the second reason is it's a very constrained corridor and there's only two 11-foot travel lanes that are paved. There's practically no shoulder. And as you can see with the utility work that's been going on, it's hard to keep traffic flowing through there efficiently, even for maybe a 6-hour shift like the utility work is. And we wanted to be able to extend that to 10-hour work days. And so we think road closures is appropriate in this situation. And then I'm going to turn it over to Joe Merrick to discuss the detour routes that we're proposing.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Councilors. My name's Joseph Merrick. I'm the County Traffic Engineer and the Traffic Safety Program Manager. So for the detour routes, we spent a lot of time working with both your agency and Lake Oswego, trying to understand where we think how people might detour, especially given that so many people use these different mapping apps in their vehicles, as well as what detour route would make sense if we're only signing one route. So sometimes you can sign a route for trucks and a route for cars, which can get very, very confusing. We looked at options of using Oregon 43, and that was actually looking good until the construction schedules for Abernathy Bridge changed, and then they ended up being in conflict. And so we pivoted and started thinking about, well, maybe I-5 Boone's Ferry, and spoke with Lake Oswego. So that's ultimately what we settled on for a signed detour route. There is good capacity on those roadways. Lake Oswego concurred with the recommendations. We know it's going to be inconvenient, but also this is a very substantial safety improvement for this intersection. And so again, as we've thinking about what is this going to be like during the construction, we're like, all right, let's look ahead and think about how can we support both Westland and Lake Oswego through this effort. And so one of the things that we're actually doing is we're going to be looking at how the traffic patterns change. So we're collecting some pre-construction traffic data, and then we're going to be monitoring traffic both before and during the different stages of construction, and then working with both Westland staff and Lake Oswego staff on, all right, where do we think where cars going? And we have a contract, a consultant on support to help us with potentially implementing things like temporary speed back signs, potentially traffic control, minor traffic control changes, possibly changeable message signs or other signing, as well as coordinating with law enforcement for support as the project begins. We also have been working with actually with ODOT. ODOT has a transportation analytics tool that they own that local agencies can use, that we can both look at historic and real-time traffic changes. And so my team has been actually building a little dashboard. We did some experimentation with the Rosemont closure to look to see, can we tell where people are moving? And so that holds some promise in terms of trying to get more real-time information so we can be more responsive, working with Eric's team and then working with Lake Oswego's team to say, all right, here's what's going on. Here's what we need to do to best manage this. And so clearly our effort is to make this go as smoothly as possible. And what I try to remember as I'm thinking about the closures is at the end of this, we're going to have a much safer situation for everybody that uses the road and everybody that lives in the area.
So kind of looking at next steps, as I mentioned, we should be getting a finalized construction schedule in the coming weeks. And right now, the plan is to implement road closure as soon as May 1st. Of course, depending on permit approvals and things of that nature. And as Joe mentioned, we'll continue coordination between county and city staff. So we'll be keeping Eric up to date on the road closures that are coming up, to keep you guys informed, in addition to the public announcements that we'll have to make. As Joe mentioned, we'll continue our coordination with emergency services. And we've kind of started those last year with TVFNR, Lake Oswego Fire, police departments, and the couple of different school departments as well. And then we'll be making a series of public outreach messaging once we have details of the road closures. Probably the simplest way that people will find out about this is through PCMS boards, the variable message boards that we'll post in advance of road closures. So if you do frequent this road area, you will get notification that way, if not in another way.
And there's one thing I forgot to mention, it was on the slide, but we also talked about contingency planning in the event of something like wildfires or other things that are requiring like evacuation type stuff. So that's also something we're looking at. And of course, we'll work with our city partners should such a need arise.
So if you want to stay in touch on this project, I think Eric is probably the best point of contact. Or if you'd like to reach out to Joe and I directly, feel free to do that. And then we have a project webpage that we keep updated periodically. So we'll have information on there that's current regarding road closures and progress of the construction. So with that, again, thank you for having us. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer those.
Thank you for the information presentation. Any questions from the council? I will just start without a question, but just saying thank you for doing this project. I think it's important. I think a lot of Westland residents use Stafford Road, Johnson Road, Childs Road, all this whole area to go about their day, their commutes, and I think it'll be a lot safer because right now it's definitely not safe with the big drop-offs off of the sides of Stafford and the left turn on Johnson Road onto Stafford. So glad to see it coming to fruition. I know it will be inconvenient for everybody though, so hopefully we can continue the good positive communication about closures and detours. I'm sure a lot of folks will just plug it into their phone apps, into Waze, to Google Maps, whatever, and they'll go wherever that takes them. So we'll just keep monitoring it when it happens. Thank you, Councilor Reich.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm a big fan of the roundabout at Childs. That's going to be such a huge improvement, as well as the bike paths. My son years ago used to ride his bike from Robinwood neighborhood to a friend who lived off of Childs Road, and it terrified me every time he left the house.
Councilor Bonington.
I also am a big fan of that roundabout. I've worried that maybe there's been sort of a short memory that the public has, or maybe it's not that short because it was about 20 years ago. 15, 20 years ago that other one at Rosemont and Stafford went in. And I don't think people remember exactly how bad that traffic backup was, but it took a while and it was ugly. So the improvement was indisputably incredible. And I anticipate this will be the same way.
Thank you. Councilor Groner.
Yes, I was curious. You mentioned the GPS mapping services. Do you communicate these kinds of closures to them directly, or do you expect people to enter this on their phones?
So what we'll be doing is the construction staging, we'll enter it through TripCheck, which is the ODOT program. Those mapping apps actually pick that up from that TripCheck. So they have a way, we put the data out there, TripCheck uses it, but other companies can come in and pull that data into their applications. So whether it's Waze or Google or all the sundry of different ones.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Director Leyes, any comments or questions? Or
No, I echo your all sentiment. Every time I take that way, it's it's a little bit hairy making a left turn or a right turn off of Childs. But yeah, so gonna be, like you mentioned, gonna be a little bit inconvenient for a while, but it's greatly needed, and I appreciate the county's team in working on the detour routes. We just unfortunately don't have a good path to accommodate the volume of traffic on Rosemont through town. We understand that people are that know the area are gonna find their own detours, which we're fine with, but I think the plan that they've laid out with that detour route is the best that's out there, and look forward to I'll have to get with you guys to figure out that that ODOT program, because I wasn't aware of that, so that could be definitely a useful tool along the way. I was curious if can we pan back to the closure map? So the first is the tan. And then so then that'll open summer. Okay, so that'll be closed through the summer. Potentially.
So tan would be, and again, these are very tentative dates.
Yeah.
But the tan would be May 1 through July 14th of 2025. And then stage 2 would be July 15th through September 30th of 2025. Then the winter shutdown would be October through April of 2026. And then we'd essentially mirror it, but the other way around for the next season.
Okay.
So I said, so we are still kind of firming up the specific dates. That's why
Yeah.
I left it a little bit vague.
Yeah, it's just there's some overlap there, so I was trying to
Yeah.
just
So
understand.
the plan is to not have any overlap between the stages.
Okay.
But I could go into stage 3. This might be the most confusing one. The winter shutdown, we are, because the magenta and the purple look very similar in coloring. So the stage 3 would be the purple only, which would be keeping Childs Road closed over the winter. But north and southbound traffic on Stafford would be open.
Oh.
There's several reasons for that. One is the roundabout will not be completed come winter, but a lot of the fill work, so all the rock they have to fill in there to make room for the roundabout will be there. And we're expecting several inches of settlement because of the tremendous amount of fill. But that will take several months to have the initial compaction occur. And so we have to monitor that compaction and settlement before we start building the concrete work on top of it in the roadway. So that's why we're closing it. And then also to get all that settlement to happen and then try to set up some kind of temporary way for people to navigate through there would be quite difficult. And so that's why we're showing it as closed over the winter. Happy to answer other
Makes
questions.
sense.
Yeah.
A lot of engineering going on with this project.
Sure.
Council President had a question. Thank you, Director Lace, for your comments as well.
Yes, thank you very much for this presentation. And I have long awaited what has been planned here, partly because I've been driving this stretch of road all my life. And notably, when I was a newly permitted driver at the age of 15, my mom no longer would ride with me after navigating unsuccessfully, smoothly that stretch of road. I'm particularly interested in whether or not the curve between Johnson and Childs, if anything is going to be done to improve the safety of that, how that's navigated. I don't know what the crash data is on that stretch, but I'm sure it exists somewhere. That I think there's even a car off the road right now that's been down there for a while. Is that going to be kind of gentled? I don't know what you call that. What is the traffic terminology?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple different things we're going to do to try to improve safety along the whole project. I guess specifically in that area, we will be smoothing out the curve a little bit to make it a little bit less abrupt. So making it a larger radius. Another important thing that we're going to do is the super elevation of the roadway is quite abrupt, and the super elevation is just how tipped the road is. So we are going to essentially shift the crown of the road and repave it to kind of a normal cross slope along the roadway, which will make it smoother as you ride around the corner. So that will help. And then another thing that'll help is After the widening is completed, we're going to add guardrail along the downhill side of the roadway. And so that would, in case there is off-roading, that would be a final way of catching cars. And then on top of all that, a 6-foot wide paved bike lane will provide extra room for emergency parking, stalled vehicles, or a little extra room to get back on the road in case there's some off tracking.
Thank you. And anything the city can do to, if you need electeds at an open house, or I'm happy, please call me. I'd love to help communicate about the importance of this project and tell my own little stories.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to confirm, we got a map that has 2 detour routes, A or B, and it sounded like you're saying option A is the preferred route, which is the one through Lake Oswego, not on 43. Is that,
So the purple route, I don't have it in front of me.
that's the purple one.
Yep, the purple
Okay.
route. Yep,
Okay.
that's correct. That's the preferred
I'm
option.
sure some folks will still use 43 and they'll pick their own detour route, but that's good to know, just for clarification. So, well, with that, anything else, or so we let our friends from the county go? Okay, well, thank you for coming, and the communication has been great so far on this. We appreciate you following up, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk as the project gets into the closure phase coming up. So,
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
thank you, Director. That we can turn back to the agenda, and we have mayor and council reports to get to, and now it's reports from community advisory groups or city business in general. Councilor Bright.
I did attend the Planning Commission meeting last week, and they held the hearing on the housing production strategy. That will be coming to the council, both a work session and then our hearing, I believe, in May. And so since we'll be hearing about that again, I don't need to go into any details.
President.
Thank you. I did attend the Transportation Advisory Board meeting on March 19th that went over their 2025 goals discussion and the pedestrian prioritization plan and general capital project update, and with 2-year streets draft capital plan. The CCI Committee for Community Involvement meeting on March 25th, which included a discussion of emergency preparedness and the consideration ongoing of potentially using flock cameras for the police department. The April 3rd C4 meeting I attended on behalf of the mayor, who was unable to attend, discussed supportive housing services update, consolidated planning for transportation safety, and the Clackamas County Transportation System Plan update, featuring Mr. Merrick, who was just here. And I also attended as did several of city staff, the Clackamas County Business Alliance Mayoral Summit on March 31st, which was very interesting and included at least 10 mayors from cities around Clackamas County in a forum, and our own mayor, who did an excellent job representing the city. That's it.
Thank you very much, Councilor Groner. Then we'll go to Councilor Bonington if you have a report.
Yes, I attended the Arts and Culture meeting a few days ago. Basically, the project is on track. The contract's been signed. The first check has been cut to the artist, and he's begun work for the bike kiosk on Main Street. The other thing is, it occurred to me that I frequently have lunch at the Adult Community Center, and people know that I'm a city councilman, and I'm frequently fielding jobs. So I view that as a part of my outreach as well.
Cool.
It's a different demographic.
No, it's great. Glad that you're there. I got to get back there. It was really fun when we had the goal setting retreat there and got to have lunch with the folks there. Does that conclude your report?
Yes.
Okay, Councilor Bonington.
So, all of my meetings are this week. I somehow had nothing the last 20 days, so
It's
I'll make
okay,
up
but-
for it.
No, thank you. I was looking back at my calendar and had a lot going on over the last couple of weeks, just with meetings. Had that mayoral summit out in Carver with the other Clackamas County mayors, and that was a really good experience. And then we also had the Greater Portland Inc. Mayors, Meet the Mayors event, which was good, which had all the mayors from kind of the Portland metropolitan region, including Mayor Wilson from Portland, which was good to hear from him, and great event over at Briggs Tavern. That happens every year. We'll make sure, send it out to City Council next year in case folks want to sign up. But I think we're a member of Greater Portland Inc., which is a group that we haven't done a lot of work with lately, but we are close with them. So glad to participate in their forum. They're working on economic development, business development issues in the Portland region. And I had coffee with Kate Brown from the Trust and Council President to talk about the Willamette Falls Trust. It's work on the falls area. And yeah, that was so it was a busy couple of weeks. So that's what I did for over the last couple of weeks, and also had a South Fork meeting in there as well. That the Councilor Bright, Council President Baumgart, and I attended for the city's water company, having some very exciting discussions there about capital projects to fortify our water system. So with that, I will conclude my report and look forward to getting back with my advisory groups this month. And we'll go to the council priorities update, which is on the agenda.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Williams.
Mayor. I think it's listed under your agenda item, but I think it's mostly me reporting with commentary from council. We do have a couple of guests for proclamations. I wondered if you wanted to do that first and
Oh,
then.
yeah, that's fine.
Up to you.
That's fine. So we'll go through the proclamations. Who do we have guests here for? Okay. Well, we will start with the Child Abuse Prevention Month. I will have which counselor has, we'll have Counselor going to read it, and then we can give some remarks if you'd like to. Go ahead, Counselor Groner.
A proclamation, whereas children are vital to our city future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most vulnerable assets. And whereas all children deserve to have safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities where they need to foster their healthy growth and development. And whereas child abuse and neglect is a community responsibility affecting both the current and future quality of life in a community. And whereas exposure to childhood trauma has a powerful adverse effect on the lifelong physical and mental health and is recognized nationally as a major public health issue. And whereas communities that provide parents with social support, knowledge of parenting, and child development and concrete resources they need to cope with stress and nurture their children and ensure all children grow to their full potential. And whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human service agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the City Council of the City of West Linn that April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And we call upon the community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the communities in which we live. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. And would you like to make any remarks? Thank you
Yeah,
for being
I sure
here.
would. I had a really brief presentation,
ahead.
and I will be very brief. But thank you so much, Mayor and councilors, for having Children's Center here again and for that important proclamation. I know we were pleased to be here last year. And I think a few of you maybe were able to come by to an open house we had as well last year at the beginning. So we're grateful for your support and recognition of this important issue. The Children's Center's mission is to work with the community to end abuse and neglect through assessment, treatment, and prevention. And we envision a world in which all children feel safe, valued, and heard. So the Children's Center's been around since 2002, and we exist really to bring a trauma-informed approach to supporting children and youth when there are concerns of abuse and neglect. And before the Child Advocacy Centers existed, kids might encounter law enforcement, child welfare, the medical emergency system, at all different points in their experience, be interviewed multiple times about what had happened to them. And so child advocacy centers were really developed to be a single place where children could come, where all of those professionals also could come and hear the stories of those kids. We have very deeply trained forensic interviewers who are expert in a trauma-informed approach to assessing what's happened with children and getting them to tell their story in their own words, and hopefully to only have to do that one time as opposed to repeatedly to all of those partners. So a really important part of our model is that we work very closely with law enforcement, including the West Linn Police Department, Sheriff's Office, every jurisdiction in Clackamas County, and with our Department of Human Services, Mental Health Services, all sorts of providers in the community that support these children and families as we do this important work. Annually, we see about 500 children in Clackamas County each year for that in-depth assessment that I referenced. You can see here as well that we do see a disproportionate amount of very severe sexual abuse and physical abuse cases, because those are the cases that come to our attention and that people refer to us. With that said, it's the form of neglect is actually the most prevalent form of abuse, but we tend to see those most extreme cases because they're brought in to our medical center for a consultation. We also are very fortunate in Clackamas. Many CACs have therapy services, and ours is included and has really grown over the last number of years. And we have, we only see children who come through either our center or some child advocacy center that have a documented case of abuse and neglect. And we do not have enough capacity to see all the kids in Clackamas County that even come through our doors, much less who might be present in the community. So that is a tremendous need in the community. We're very pleased to be able to have those services on site. And then our prevention program is what we're here talking about today. And so we have a staff who are out and about in the community. We do farmers markets. We go to schools. We go to libraries. We are wherever we're invited to be to really talk about the importance of prevention and to just raise awareness that prevention of abuse and neglect is possible, and that what it takes is for a community to be committed to prevention, to become educated advocates on behalf of kids, and to really work to support children and families in ways that allow them to be resilient and to thrive and to have those positive community experiences that are preventative in nature. Anyone can make a referral to the Children's Center. The majority come from law enforcement agencies and the Department of Human Services. We are focused on children almost exclusively, except that we will see adults with developmental disabilities if their functional level is under 18. So we do occasionally see developmentally delayed adults, and anyone can make that call. And we do not substitute for a call as a mandatory reporter, but we will cross-report and or ask the reporter to also make a call for mandatory reporting. But if somebody is unsure, or if a family just needs help and support and it doesn't rise to the level of abuse and neglect, we can take those calls. Our fantastic family support team can really provide some services parenting classes, references for all kinds of resources to help support a family in need. This is just some information about how to make that report if needed for mandatory reporters. And again, we don't substitute for that call. That mandatory reporting call is also made in parallel to contacting the Children's Center, but we can also make that report behind the scenes if need be. So our Prevention Month campaign, we're really excited. It's here we are a week into April. I actually played my own little April Fool's joke. I was here a week ago on the 1st, had the date wrong. But we were so excited to get kicked off for the month. So our theme is Thriving Together. It takes community to protect our children. And we have a variety of prevention trainings. We have a Tuesday training series that's listed there. Throughout Clackamas County, we have a couple of screenings of the film Screenagers, one at Baker Prairie Middle School, which is in Canby, and Clackamas High School. And then we have some other weekend events where we're just encouraging children and families to get out and about in safe activities with safe adults. And so we're really excited to be promoting a lot of this work. We work with any community in Clackamas that's interested in partnering with us to do these. And so if you have ideas about ways you'd love to see us working in West Linn, we would love to talk to you and kind of tee up for next year. And also, we do these trainings, we do events like this throughout the year. So we just obviously put a big push in April because of Awareness Month, but we really welcome it anytime, any community that's interested in being trained in child sexual abuse prevention or online safety or a variety of topics that our staff are really expert in. So I think that was our open house, which was last week. But for more information, anyone can contact me at prevention@childrencenter.cc. And I'm happy to take any questions if you have them.
Thank you for the presentation and for all you do to help keep our kids and families safe and healthy.
Yeah, thanks.
Councilor Groner has.
Yes, I also wanted to thank you for all the wonderful work you do. I believe I visited your center about a year ago.
I do think so, yeah.
I was a little curious about what are your funding sources?
So we have a variety of funding sources, and broadly they fall into 3 categories. So we are a medical clinic. We're what's called a medical model for those assessment services that I described when there's a current investigation. So we do have insurance reimbursement, both private and public funding for those medical assessments. That is only partially funded, but it is a substantial source, about a third of our funding. We have government contracts, both primarily federal and some state funds that are out of victims advocacy funds. And those unfortunately are at risk this year and those funds are not tax-based, they're out of court fees, and those have been diminishing over time. And so that is about another third of our funding, but again, concerningly a diminishing source. And then we do a lot of fundraising, and both in private foundation grants and also individual donor relations. So that's about another third.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No, I should say, no child or family is ever charged for any service at the Children's Center. So when I reference, we take private health insurance for both our assessments and therapy. We would cover things like co-pays and any of those services that are unfunded. So that's where sort of our private fundraising helps to supplement that insurance revenue. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Good question. I'd love to see West Linn get on the list of one of the partner agencies
Yeah.
that hosts an event sometime. So I'm sure we could
Absolutely.
connect you with our staff and maybe our community services director down at the library and find a time to host an event.
Exactly. We love our
I'm
libraries.
sure a ton of us would love to be there as well. So we'll connect on that. Any other questions from council or comments? Councilor Baumgart.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the presentation, but more, of course, for all this work that you're doing. And I'm really glad that you mentioned the unfortunate reality of the federal funding that's in jeopardy. And I would like to take this opportunity to just say that I think it's despicable what's going on in jeopardizing funding for critical services, especially for the very most vulnerable in our communities. So thank you for continuing to do this work, and let me know and let us know anything we can do to help, and we will do it.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Great points. Agreed wholeheartedly, Council President. Anything else from anybody on the council? Okay,
Okay.
well,
Thank you so much.
thank you. Thanks. I'm glad you had a presentation as well. Thanks for coming up and
You bet.
doing that. We'll be in touch and appreciate all you do. The next proclamation is Distracted Driving Safety Awareness Month for April.
Thank you. I don't know why you gave me this one to read, but I won't take it personally. Just kidding. I may or may not have gotten a ticket in Lake Oswego for having my phone in my hand, but I learned my lesson.
I have too. Okay, I have too.
It wasn't recently. Whereas motor vehicle crashes are one of the leading causes of death and injury in Oregon, and whereas distracted driving is a serious, life-threatening practice that is preventable, yet is a national statewide epidemic that can lead to crash fatalities for drivers and passengers, as well as pedestrians. And whereas distracted driving is an activity that could divert a person's attention from the primary task of driving, and whereas in Oregon between 2017 and 2021, there were 26,264 crashes involving a distracted driver, resulting in 194 fatalities and 24,264 injuries. And whereas studies show that using mobile electronic devices involves visual, auditory, manual, and cognitive distraction and is among the worst of all driver distractions. And whereas in Oregon between 2017 and 2021, there were 2,005 crashes involving a driver using a mobile electronic device, resulting in 15 fatalities and 1,775 injuries. And whereas Oregon law, as of 2018, prohibits the use of mobile electronic devices when operating a motor vehicle on public roadways. And whereas to reduce the number of crashes, as well as improve Oregon's driver safety culture, the Oregon Department of Transportation seeks to enhance awareness, understanding, education, and enforcement to stop distracted driving. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the City Council of the City of West Linn that April 2025 is Distracted Driving Safety Awareness Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. The proclamation was assigned at random to you, okay? Councilor Bragg, please, you're reading the Volunteer Recognition Month, which you requested.
Whereas Volunteer Recognition Month is an opportunity to recognize and honor the countless individuals who selflessly invest in the lives of others, and whereas we have never needed the volunteerism of America more than we do today, and whereas volunteers are finding unique and innovative ways to spread joy and meet the emotional, physical, and spiritual needs of others, and whereas volunteering one's time, talents, and resources has been an integral part of our heritage since the early days of our nation, and it is essential that we continue this tradition of giving and sharing to preserve and improve the quality of life for all citizens in our community. And whereas the receiver is not the only one who benefits from volunteer service, for the giver reaps the rewards of improved skills and widened horizons as well. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the City Council of the City of West Linn, April is Volunteer Recognition Month.
Thank you, Councilor, and thanks for all you do at the volunteering in various capacities, including at the Robinwood Station Garden as the garden chair. Okay, I'll read the last one, and we have Parks Department representatives here. If you'd like to come up and say anything about our trees, you're more than welcome to, but you don't have to. proclamation in Westland, Oregon, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, now called Arbor Month, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas by planting trees, we emphasize views, direct pedestrian traffic, and complement or enhance architecture. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy, peace, and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Westland is recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to expand its tree planting and stewardship practices. And now therefore be it proclaimed by the City Council of the City of Westland that April 2025 is Arbor Month in Westland, and we call upon all community members and civic organizations to celebrate trees by planting, maintaining, studying, and enjoying trees in our community. The city will celebrate Arbor Month by offering many community events focused towards the maintenance of existing trees and the planting of new trees, and will stop all trees from being cut down in the community. Oh no, there's my April Fool's joke. Sorry, everybody. That's not part of the proclamation. But no, this was dated this first day of April 2025. It's actually the 7th. So please go ahead if you, thanks. And I think I signed the application to make this a Tree City USA this year. So I'm glad to see we were able to get that. And we appreciate all the Parks Department does for our trees on city property.
Well, thank you very much. We are excited to be expanding our offerings for our community outreach. And I'd like to show you a video that staff has put together, and we'll be having a series of videos going out through the month to educate our community about trees.
Welcome to West Lynn, Oregon, a proud Tree City USA since 1993. The city's commitment to urban forestry is deeply rooted in its values, reflecting the Tree City USA belief that a city that takes care of its trees takes care of its people. The Tree City USA program recognizes communities for their commitment to managing and expanding their urban forests, requiring them to meet 4 core standards for urban forestry management. It is a badge of honor that West Lynn is proud to wear. Join us this Arbor Month as we take you on a video journey through what makes West Lynn a tree city, teach you some important lessons about trees, and meet some of the people who work hard to keep our spaces safe and beautiful.
Great video. And I think I saw somebody with their sapling walking out of City Hall this morning.
Well, we're quite excited. Not only is it great community outreach, it's been fun. Recreation coordinator, Alyssa, has created that video. So we have such a great gift in her of putting these videos together. And then it brings our staff together too, to have some kind of fun out there as well. One thing I really wanted you to know though, if you saw those standards with becoming a tree city, we are required to spend $2 per capita on protecting our trees. That includes staff time, volunteer time, as well as our purchasing of trees. Because all these numbers that we're going to be sharing with you are stats from last year. Teresa, if you could pull up that slide, that would be great when you have a chance. This last year, because of our free replacement tree, street tree program, we spent over $400,000 on supporting trees in the community. And next year, we won't have that program, but we'll still be expanding that. And also our work that is done by our public works team is not included in these numbers for this year. So we're working together as a full city, not just a department, to be able to expand our support of our trees. Our main focus for this year is going to be Free the Tree. So we're asking our community members to help save our #1 resource of our natural areas, which also help reduce our fuels reduction as far as having ladder fuels if we were to ever have a fire. So we're quite excited, and we have the free plants that are given away downstairs for the week. I'm going to pass it over to Tara to talk about volunteers as well as, which ties into our natural areas program.
Sorry about that. I should have sat up here during the volunteer recognition also. Yeah, so with Arbor Month too, we're going to do some more tree talks. So we'll have some of our staff and people in the community doing some more on madrones, sequoias, some of our native trees that are in our parks. Along with that, we're going to do Earth Day Work Day down in Willamette Park, April 19th. So come on down. We're going to have a lunch afterwards hosted by the Lions Club again. That'll be great. So just a shout out to all our volunteers. Last year, we had 72 monthly work parties work parties throughout the year, which is fantastic. Most of them are, recurring monthly, some are quarterly, and some are just, a couple times a year. So we're working with several groups that just reach out and want to do, make the parks look a little better for us. It's great. So then we also tracked about 3,700 volunteer hours last year, along with over 1,300 volunteers attending the work parties. Same with our adult community center. We have about 40 volunteers that are regulars there. They do shifts 5 days a week, 3-hour shifts a day at the front desk, also in the kitchen, bus trips. So, we have a great group of folks there too. Along with our recreation camps, we have some volunteers, National Charity League, some other, youth men's leagues, and some groups that help out our events. So we are just fortunate to have a great volunteer group here in the city.
That is all we have for you. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you and happy Arbor Month. A robust amount of proclamations today. Glad we could get all those done for the month. Makes the most sense to get them done at the first meeting because you're doing it for the entire month. So with that, we will turn to our legislative session update if we have. Doug, is Doug coming to this?
Council priorities next.
Oh, council priorities next.
Yep.
Okay.
We're working to get Doug in the meeting. He's appearing virtually and we're trying to get him in.
Probably virtually from Salem. I'm guessing.
Indeed.
Thank
So
you.
meanwhile, I'm happy to provide what I know about updates on each of the 9 council priorities. And I would please request that all of you chime in, add what you know, because many of you are working on these as well. You adopted these back in February, and again, there's 9 of them. I just thought I'd go through real quick and go in order that they're printed. This time I had to take notes because there is so much happening that I was unable to keep it all in my head. So I did write down a lot of notes, which is a great sign. The first one is transportation safety and funding, and we'll be talking with Doug a little bit in a moment about what's happening in Salem, because part of your priority agenda is to support funding for local road maintenance, state projects, and possibly the jurisdictional transfer of Highway 43. So we will hear, hopefully, from Doug what is happening in Salem, and there is quite a bit happening on transportation funding. We have just seen an overview of a possible package focused on maintenance activities, but I won't spoil Doug's thunder on that. More locally, which you've already heard from council reports, the Transportation Advisory Board is working with the engineering department and consulting team on identifying priority pedestrian safety and traffic safety projects. And in April, later this month, April 21st, the council is going to be meeting jointly with the TAB, and we'll invite the YAC to that as well, because they've expressed an interest to talk about what prioritization has been done, how many projects there are, what the costs look like, and what we know about our funding capability for that. And council has talked several times already about the desire to perhaps increase funding available locally for transportation safety projects. And this will be kind of the big kickoff for that discussion here at council, which I think is great. And I want to thank the engineering team and everyone who's been involved on that one. I will keep going unless I get interrupted. How about that? Okay. The second was explore feasibility of indoor recreation and community center. Not as much happening on this one right now, but we are working with the Y. Staff from our regional Y is expected to come to talk to the community rec center future funding group, hopefully this month, and explain how the Y funds projects, what communities do to support the Y, and, excuse me, how that partnership might work. The Y has been very successful in Sherwood for several decades. They are building projects elsewhere around the region. And the important part for us, if we were interested in that model, would be to get in the queue with the Y, because get in the queue with the Y, I like that. I'll remember that one, if anyone knows what it means. And the Y is a very successful organizer and administrator of community rec programs. They have a lot of name recognition for donors and for community members. And there's a high confidence level, I think, that is just basic in the community all across the United States, that the Y knows what they're doing. And if we could get them involved and interested in our project, I think that would be a big win for us and probably represent dramatic cut of costs for us. Anyway, there's a future funding group that are interested folks from the last round of effort, and we're hoping to set up that conversation and hopefully have a conversation with council about that as well. That is the main thing happening on Rec Center. Yes,
Go ahead,
sir.
Councilor Groner.
Yeah.
Yeah, are we still working toward a November bond issue on the rec center?
We are not. There's been no direction for that. So we are working to find ways to reduce costs to the public before we go to any sort of a bond measure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I think it's-
Oh,
I
I'm
just wanted
sorry.
to say, I think it's very exciting that we're talking to the YMCA. And I'm glad to hear that we're continuing to work with this. The future funding group used to be the steering committee, and that could be a huge win for the community if we're able to find a partner like the YMCA to come in and help us even contribute to the cost of building or contribute to the cost of operation. I know they're working on a successful model up in Ridgefield, Washington right now, that we took a look at over the last few months. So I'm sure we'll keep the community informed and look forward to that next discussion with the steering committee. So,
And Megan, no.
and I also think the YMCA happens to like the pool idea. So that's something that could be talked about as well.
Yeah, that was one thing we learned from them, is that a pool is essential to the Y. It's part of their brand. It's part of what they do. It's part of the value they bring to a community. So they would want a pool put back on the table. Having the Y as a partner would certainly, I think, increase community confidence in everything from costing to management to operations, because these are folks that have been running pools all across the country for 100 years. We have never run a pool here, and I think it would be great to have a trusted partner on board. We'll also obviously be watching Lake Oswego's rollout very closely and seeing what utilization is like and what, if any, capacity is available in that building once they open. I suspect it's going to be very low extra capacity over there. So the next item on your priorities list was clarify community advisory group work programs. And my first note on this consisted of 3 question marks, because this one is a little bit of a struggle and I think a work in progress. What I will say is that I want to thank Alyssa and Kathy and others for convening an internal team. All of our community advisory group staff liaisons have been meeting to brainstorm how to get about this one, and also a whole bunch of other things related to CAGs. Alyssa is looking at, are there ways that we can coordinate what we do, and so that every group runs the same way with the same technology, the same notice procedures, the same level of staff report, the same notice of the same level of what work is the chair doing versus the staff, and what is the council liaison's role. We do expect to have a conversation with council about this soon. You'll remember the idea of work programs is apparently one that used to be done here in West Linn, the council providing work programs to CAGs. And we talked about it at your retreat. I think it's really, really valuable. In the priority document, we listed out subject areas for individual advisory groups. Left undecided was what happens if they're not working on that. What else should they be working on? How do they decide? How do they get your approval to do that? So we are hoping to bring back that conversation to you and have some structure to it. So we're excited to do that because it's something that our staff has been wanting and that your own volunteers have been wanting. And I know you've each been wanting it, so that the CAGs are run consistently. Everything from how you liaise to those to how the minutes are done is on the table right now. So I'm pleased with that work. Do you want to add anything to that? Is that okay? Yep, you'll have your chance at 2:30 to add anything you want when I step out of the room. The next one is drinking water system capital needs, and this is another one where quite a bit of work is happening. The UAB is meeting tomorrow night, as Carol and I decided earlier this morning, to discuss the capital project list and available funding. And this is one, you'll remember you adopted the capital plan, and now we are trying to marry the capital plan with our funding ability. So similar to the transportation discussion, your advisory group is working on the water part of this and will be bringing forward recommendations to council. Councillor Brike, I don't know if you have anything to add to that rate part or the prioritization part.
No, I think one of the questions the UAB still has, the Utility Advisory Board still has, is do we look at all of the water? Do we look at the surface water and the wastewater as well as part of their mandate?
Great. Sorry, I'm getting text from Doug Riggs. This is his text, which is on the password part. So I'll keep going. We have a few more minutes for Doug. On other items on the water system, we are finally seeing our first drawdowns on the Abernathy Bridge water line. So ODOT is now tapping against the fund that we have for that. So after all of this time, now the withdrawals are starting to come for the work on that project, which is actually good. We have just been holding that money and we need to use it for its assigned cause. The last thing I'll say about Drinking Water Capital is that we want to thank Matt Katz and Morgan Lovell and others who submitted requests in response to a call for projects to the Oregon legislature. We got several of our projects onto the list that's being discussed down in Salem. And perhaps if we have time with Doug, we'll hear if anything is happening on water system infrastructure. But we have 3 projects on the list having to do with reservoir resiliency, as I recall, seismic resiliency, and other pieces related to our capital. So the consistent message to the state legislature is that there are a ton of needs statewide. And to the extent that they can help us provide clean water to our residents, then we can help them with other priorities that they have. Keeping going, the next 2 projects are the vision plans in the planning agenda. The waterfront project, Darren gave me an update this morning, which I appreciated. They are working on the final updates to the draft vision plan and also the zoning analysis for the waterfront project. The working group, the property owners group, and the technical committee will be reviewing those in early May. Meetings are scheduled. The consulting team and staff are also working on the development of a finance plan. So wonderful vision. How would you finance it? What tools are available? What needs are unmet? That will be reviewed this summer by all of those groups. There will be also open houses this summer, and that'll be on that draft vision plan and on the zoning analysis. Right now, the Planning Commission and Council meetings are anticipated for September to November for the adoption hearings on the waterfront vision plan. Again, this is just the vision plan. It's all the drawings and the text that you have seen amended based on dozens and dozens of community comments. And that work continues. On Highway 43, Chris also provided me an update Chris provided me an update also on this project. Our consulting team is drafting a new mixed-use zoning code for Highway 43 based on all the comments that we have received and the tremendous public outreach that Chris has led on that project. There's a transportation analysis in process, and they are working on drafting the corridor master plan for Highway 43. Super exciting. That drafting work will happen in May through July, or in May, concluding in May. There'll be an open house in June. That's what Chris is tentatively planning. And that would review the zoning code and the draft corridor master plan, which I am very excited to see. I think that'll be fantastic. And Chris continues to work on neighborhood association involvement and other kinds of creative public outreach.
Oh, please, Councilor Bright.
And we have another working group meeting on the Vision 43 on Thursday that I will be attending.
Excellent. Thank you. I didn't have that on my list. That's great.
Councilor Bonington's next after the, when ready?
See what we can do. Okay,
All right.
sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so over the weekend, the news that there was an application to put another car wash where the old McDonald's was sparked a lot of conversation within the community, to put it plainly. And a lot about how Vision 43 was actually necessary work and how much people are actually looking forward to those changes going into effect. So it's interesting to see that become a very relevant topic all of a sudden in the community discourse.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I agree. You all have heard Darren say many, many times a thing that is completely true about land use and development review. They are totally different things. Land use is the community determining what's going to be allowed in an area and what it's going to look like and setting the rules for that. Development review is reviewing an application against those rules. So we hear a lot, why doesn't the city prevent another car wash? We do not have that authority to prevent a car wash. The only way we have it is by creating land use that would prevent car washes if that's what the community wanted to do. But we have to administer our code fairly. I know you know this, and I'm just answering a common question that we get. Just say no to another X, Y, or Z business. Well, we can't do that. You set those uses through the vision plan. And that's why this is so important right now, because it'll be determining what we allow on Highway 43 and what it'll look like for the next 25 years or more. Okay, great. Moving on, we have 3 left. Environmental protection is the next council priority, and there's quite a bit of work happening here. Dylan Digby in our office is our staff liaison, and the SAB and a consultant and Dylan have been working very hard on a bunch of things related to environmental protection. You may recall that we provided a small contract to a consultant named Parametrics, and they have been working with the SAB. I've just had a look at their short list of recommended strategies. It looks pretty good to me. They've identified what we asked for was what are the simplest things that we could do that would have the biggest impact, and how would we fund those? And so what we have as a draft version from this consulting team is a list of such things, including models that other cities have adopted and how they have done it, a list of grant opportunities in each category, and a example list of targets that we could set. And so the SAB is working on that. These include things like alternative fuel vehicle policy, equipment policies, LED upgrades in building, HVAC projects, and they also talk about other things that could happen in the community. For example, EV charging stations installed by private businesses, which I know the mayor has an interest in and has been working on. And so this list is being reviewed by the SAB and will probably come forward to council with the list, with a set of recommendations. And I think this would be an awesome opportunity to try out our upcoming CAG work program. So the SAB, working on a long list of things, will bring you a report and ask you, what do you want us to do with this? And we'll have the opportunity to clarify what their role is and what they might or might not want to spend their time on. So I think that's great. Also in the realm of sustainability, we have Parks Department, Megan. Megan is the Parks Department. No, I'm sure there's others, Mike probably, and many others, working on municipal tree code update. And this is something council will hear a little bit more about in the future. We certainly have a lot of interest in this community in our tree canopy and how it's administered. And Megan has been working on that. So we'll hear some more about that and also probably talk a little bit about it in the budget process. The last thing I'll mention on sustainability is that we are proposing a council work session on the 5th of May to talk about some design elements of the new operations facility, including sustainability elements. And so that would be with the SAB and the engineering team, the designers and all of that, which I think could be a really worthwhile session. So that work has been happening by the architects, and we're going to hear what they're proposing. And I'm excited about it too, because I'm not sure. I think I missed a meeting, so I don't even know. I love it when council meetings are surprises for me too. It's fun. The last two, oh, I'm sorry.
So the topic of gas-powered leaf blowers continues to come up.
Okay.
On that subject. And I'm still very supportive of pursuing that personally, but I saw that the city of Portland and Multnomah County had to delay their implementation due to the cost of things. So that seems to be an interesting wrinkle in that pursuit.
It's a complicated item. Yes, we have a number of people in the community that are interested in that, both from an environmental perspective and a noise perspective, all sorts of things. But it gets complicated pretty fast when you think about how do you implement it? What are the consequences to companies that violate it or people that violate it? How do you address equity impacts is something we've talked about before. So very interesting topic. We'll see what happens. Yeah, thank you. On the DEIB front, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, we have an internal committee that is working on a work plan for 2025, addressing our internal connections. How are we connecting departments? How are we making sure employees, individual employees and groups of employees feel supported? How are we designing our welcome programs? How are we going to publicize and implement the mission and values that we previously adopted? I have just seen a draft set of possible work program for 2025. It's pretty ambitious, and I like it. And we're trying to get more specific about what we're doing so that the employees know what that program is. Also, on a related front, we are restarting our employee engagement committee. This is only sort of half related to DEIB, but we previously had a group of employees that were working on events and employee engagement and all sorts of connections in the agency. And Alyssa and Kelsey have been working on getting that going again. We're excited to have that happen. One of the things that I noted on the list is a inclusive leadership training for supervisors, which I think would be really great, and a good program for us to have, good for their career development and good for our operations. So that's kind of what I have on DEIB. The last item is the operations facility. It's probably the one you need the least update on because all of the recent items have been requiring council approval. So you know that we hired an owner's representative. That was back in February, I think. The final design work by Scott Edwards Architects is nearing completion. We'll be hearing about pieces of that on the 5th, as I mentioned, and the construction manager general contractor, which you approved a purchasing step for, is open for bids right now, and it closes on April 24th. So assuming we get some good interest, I have heard there is really great interest by really good firms. So we will see who submits. I think this is a pretty appealing project. That's a big enough project that you can get a big firm with a lot of expertise. And we have some great firms with local connections that are expected to bid. So that is what I know about council priorities right now. Any questions or anything going on that I don't know about that you'd like to add to the list?
Oh, earlier you mentioned the water line on Abernathy and the drawdown from ODOT. Have we gotten at what point do we get the 5 million from the legislature that was allocated?
We are working on that. Yes. I don't know the exact date for that, but I know that the finance and engineering teams are working on satisfying all the requirements for it.
It's in progress then.
Yeah,
We're still
it's
working.
definitely in
towards that.
progress.
Still
Yep.
have that money coming
Yep.
potentially.
And the news that I heard from Washington DC is we may still be on the list for the federal award. Is that the intel you folks came back with on the
Yes.
on the 1.25 from
It
there?
came down to, were you allocated in a budget bill previous to the current session and the cuts that happened with, where there were a bunch of cities that were like slated to get an award. And then because they didn't make it into a budget bill and they did that continuing resolution, it was, a lot of the cities lost money that were in that process or lost their earmarks. Ones that were previously allocated and signed by, approved by Congress, signed by president into law are going to still come, is what I heard. Now, whether there'll be problems with the transfer of the money, who knows? But we weren't like cut yet at this point. That's my update. Did anybody come back with a different understanding? Okay.
We may have to accept.
We, again, as a reminder to folks listening, we had 5 million from the state legislature and a lottery bond bill. And then we had a $1.25 million allocation for a congressionally directed spending project that passed a little over a year ago. So those coming in, hopefully. Any other comments on the council priorities or?
Okay, it seems that we cannot get Doug Riggs into the meeting. He has been having difficulties connecting from the legislative building down there. So what he's going to have to do, I don't know if he's listening. We either a combination of a written report or a reschedule perhaps to next week meeting.
That's fine.
Apologize for that. There is a lot going on down there. And so I think an update would be really useful, but it can certainly wait a week if need be.
Sounds good. Well, so it sounds like that's a consensus from staff is to wait, just delay it a week and have him back. That next week will be an evening meeting too. Maybe he could even come in person. John, maybe Doug can come in person next week. We'll see if that works out.
We'll see if he's listening. He can hear you say that.
Because we'll be in an evening meeting. so it'll
Yes,
be,
very strongly advised to come in person next week, Doug.
if he's able to. Councilor Groner has a comment.
Yeah, the League of Cities runs a legislative update Zoom meeting basically every Friday at noon. They've been doing that for a few weeks.
And I get from my Metropolitan Mayors Consortium position, I get a legislative session update because that group has lobbyists as well. So I can always bring that forward as well to the council in the interim. And we'll be in touch next week with Doug. I did hear the good news from the transportation package, which I'm going to spoil for everybody. For Doug, is that there was a release of the framework for the new transportation package this year that's focused on maintenance for ODOT and keeping the ODOT functioning, and tolling was not listed in the transportation draft framework as a potential solution. Several other things were listed, including the road usage charge, increasing the gas tax, increasing registration fees, et cetera, but tolling was not on there for this. So whatever that means, we'll have to find out from Doug next week, but that's pretty good news from the city of West Lynn's standpoint. And we'll talk about the details more next week. We'll go to 7 minutes left and we're at city manager report. So you're still here.
I know. I really thought it was going to work out well this time, but it did not. No, it's all good. And Alyssa may have thought of a couple of things that she can add in. For those who have no idea what I'm talking about, I have to leave the room at 2:30 for another appointment. So really quick, because you just heard from me for 15 minutes on council priorities. First of all, looking at our next meetings, your next meeting is next Monday night, the 14th. As of right now, that appeal that got continued to April back earlier in the year is still on. This relates to the driveway access on Coeur d'Alene Drive. We, I think, still are going to have the waterline award, construction waterline for all of the improvements happening this late spring and summer. Eric will be here for that. A discussion of the planning docket and a IGA. I'm not sure this is going to be on, but an IGA with ODOT for the Willamette Falls Drive to Osmond project. So that's your meeting. We also have the work session on the 21st. I already talked about the TAB component of this, talking about pedestrian traffic safety. Darren will also be here for housing production strategy. Are we doing tree code at that meeting? April? Move to May 5th now. Great. That one has been moved to May 5th because it was just looking kind of busy. And then we'll have a discussion of the right-of-way code from our finance department team and legal team. So those last two meetings in April will be fairly busy, and then the regular slate of meetings in May. We will have a work session May 5th in the daytime, and then the very next evening is our mayor's State of the City, May 6th at the library in the evening. So we're all looking forward to that. Later in May, of course, we have all the budget meetings, budget committee and council, working on council meetings for the budget. So those will be really important meetings. Before I cover the last one or two things, I want to note we have new art in the room. I really love this art. I love these silk paintings over here. They're super cool. It's apparently a husband and wife team or a couple of artists. And the quilts are from one side of the couple and the silk painting are for the other. And I think they're super cool. I wrote down from over here, the quilts are meant to generate a sense of joy and happiness with a touch of whimsy. So what council chamber could not use joy and happiness? I think that is super cool. One last piece that I wanted to talk about. We've been working on the assignment that you gave us at your last meeting. On St. Patrick's Day, you asked us to provide information on what staffing and capital needs will not be met by the proposed budget, because what I indicated at that council meeting was that what we're going to bring you is a very status quo type of budget. We are basically not adding any new staffing. There will be the usual capital construction projects, but they won't be up to the level that I think you or the community would like to see. And so as a team, we've been working on responding to your request. I don't have all of the information with costing tonight, but I do want to tell you we've been working hard internally to come up with a list of staffing and project needs that we think we've heard council talk about, that we've heard community members talk about. I'll give you a sample of it right now. We have a variety of unmet needs in our public safety realm. Additional patrol officers so that we can cut down on the mandatory overtime that folks are doing on patrol. Additional code enforcement, I think, would be a huge thing for this community. Another traffic safety officer, perhaps, an additional school resource officer. We love our SRO, but they're really not able to get into the middle schools at all, and there are a lot of needs in the middle school. Second SRO would be a really fantastic addition. So you just think about that. Public safety alone, the priority needs that I think I could convincingly talk to any member of our community about. This probably it's probably 6 staff people would be ideal in public safety. And then another priority that we've talked a lot about internally is a second person managing city facilities, helping Jeremiah Kirk do the facilities work. He does a fantastic job, but it's too much work for one person. It really is. And we need to maintain the capital investment we have in these buildings. Very, very important. Outreach and communications function would be amazing to have additional resources helping with our CAGs and with our neighborhood associations and with just general proactive outreach. We have needs in the Parks Department. Since Megan's here, I'll mention Parks Department. But we do have a lot of needs, and one that Megan has thought about a lot is maintenance of the natural areas. We really don't have a natural area maintenance program, and even though they're termed natural areas, they do need some management in an urban area. They're not intended to just sit there completely unloved for decades. We don't really have much ability in that realm, and project management for parks projects, I think, would be an amazing thing. On the capital side, probably the priority that we would give is the pedestrian and traffic safety work that you're already talking about. That's certainly the number one thing we're hearing from the community, but we do have unmet needs in city facilities too. This building is now 25 years old, and I keep thinking this is one of our new buildings, but it's a quarter century old already, and it's going to have substantial needs. Our other buildings are aging as well. So in those two realms, what we're doing is working to put together some basic cost estimates for that. And all it is the answer to the question you asked of us is, what do you hear about most, and what, in your professional opinion, would be most needed if we could provide additional resources? The last piece that I'll say, and part of what started this entire conversation, is that every year we look at, or every time we do a budget, we look 2, 4, 5 years out, and there's always a whole 4 years out that makes us worried. And so the stabilization piece of city funding, so that we're not facing this possibility every 2 years would be amazing. It's not the most enticing thing to talk to community members about. What we'd really like to do is stabilize our funds so that we're not worried all the time. But it is important. If we're going to be having a conversation at all about adding services, we have got to be able to guarantee that we can continue to provide our existing services as part of that package. So what we hope to have in the next week or two, and certainly by the time, certainly by May, is much more information about what those things would cost and what the advantages of doing them would be. We're not intending that we know everything, and anything that we'd be giving you would just be an opener for your own discussions about what you're hearing, what you're interested in, and what you might like to do with any of this information once we provide it. So all of that is underway, and maybe that's where I'll, it's 2:30. No, that's where I'll stop. If you have any questions, Alyssa can answer them.
Thank you for the report and the work on that project. We look forward to reviewing the final report in the coming weeks or months. Any quick questions for John? We're at the end of the agenda, so Alyssa, we're not going to have you come up today. You're saved. We are adjourned at 2:31 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What did you want to say?
Big deal.